All church technology is, in my mind, is utilizing computer chips and speed and silicon to make tasks easier, right? Because a lot of admin goes into the life of, church volunteers and church leadership. So we can make that easier and scale that to be so much faster by using the tech so they can actually do ministry, like be with people, prepare sermons, teach kids Sunday school. Like that's what church leaders should be doing.
Hey everybody, this is Frank with the very first introductory episode of the Church Tech Podcast. Myself and my amazing partner over here, Dean Sweetman, not coming
G'day,
in
everybody.
live, but we're here to talk church tech all day
Right.
long.
Well, I
You
think
ready for this?
I'm pumped for this because we talk church tech all day long anyway. So we thought we may as well take half an hour, 40 minutes, and like let everybody in on the conversations we're already having all the time.
Exactly. It's like, I don't know, slightly awkward. We may not have anything interesting to say, but we also might have really interesting things to say. So it's going to be fun.
Look, there's times where you call me at 6 o'clock in the morning or send me a text about an idea, and I do the same to you at midnight. And so that's just how we live. So I think we're just going to bring that passion, energy, excitement around church tech and just include some friends and make some new mates and,
Yeah.
have a party around
You,
church
you
tech.
should, just because this is the first and some people may not know our backgrounds, you should say, how did you get into church tech?
Oh,
And I'll say how I got into church tech. And then we
okay.
can talk about what church tech is. Like, what are we talking
100%.
about?
Well, I was a pastor for, in some capacity for 30 years. And I traveled as a missionary for 10 years and I planted churches in North America, but from Australia. But always was techie, right? Always just loved technology. I can remember before the iPhone came out, trying to get recurring giving on the
So
church's
on your
website.
BlackBerry, you were on your BlackBerry.
Dude, I lost 3 Blackberries in one day once. I love those things. It had something to do with going to the toilet, which I'm not going to go into, but
That'll be
and
for the
remember
future
the clip
That's
on
a
the belt?
teaser. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a teaser for a future podcast, guys. So make
totally.
sure you come back.
So I was massively the church guy into technology, and then literally the story of how we built our business that you and I work in every day. It came around from just solving a couple of problems, around giving, and we can expound on that, another day. But I just love what technology can do. So I'm a massive reader of. I probably should read Christian material more, but I read more non-Christian material around business and technology and software and all of that. Always
Yeah.
have, and then just always try to apply what I was reading from. I remember investing in Cisco in year 2000, right? And actually, I started in like 98 and it ran all the way up Cisco systems. And I'm like, this thing's never going to go down. And then the dot-com bubble came and I lost like all my money in all my Cisco shares. So that's how long I've
I mean,
been
that
in
story
tech.
is all too close to home right now, like
Oh, the
today.
Nasdaq's down like ridiculous five. That's I don't even
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
look.
That whole story is repeating itself right now. So
I'm not looking. So anyway, so always into it. Love God, love the church. Always thought technology could help the church. And then when I stopped doing church full time, started a tech company with you,
yeah,
and here we are.
and here we are. Yeah. And again, just so listeners have a little context, I actually, I grew up a little bit techy. I had a computer. Mom, single mom, but mom got me a computer
Yep.
somehow, and the internet was starting to be a thing, and so I got online. So when I got fast forward into college, I had no clue what I wanted. I went to school first because I wanted to play football. And then I had to figure out, well, what am I going to do? And I was like, oh, I like technology. So I chose computer science. Little did I know that was incredibly difficult, but I made it through. I was on the C's Get Degrees plan, and I made it through, got my degree. So I always kind of had this interest in tech, and was into it. But then I became a youth pastor for about 5 years. And as lots of youth pastors do, you end up doing the church website and email, and
Yeah.
you're fixing people's laptops, and you're kind of doing all the things. So
Using
I,
Dreamweaver.
Yeah, 100% use Dreamweaver and Photoshop and
Hmm.
learned HTML and CSS and JavaScript and all the little things. And I was building websites on the side, and I was always tinkering with technology and coding, but I was never really an engineer. Like I never, I don't want to offend any engineers. I never got that good
Right.
at that kind of stuff. But then, when youth ministry was kind of done and we made a family decision that, hey, we're not going to go into like full-time paid ministry. My first job was working for a company that made software for nonprofits, and they were hiring to build a faith-based team to kind of, implement that software for larger ministries and
Yep.
denominations and things like that. And, fast forward that 12, 13 years, and towards the tail end, we were getting tidily started. And so kind of
Yeah.
this marriage of this personal interest in technology, but also my personal faith that, I became a Christian in college, and being able to do that together. So I've been able to do that for a long time now. And
The
17,
rest is history.
oh my gosh, it's technology and church coming together is like
Yeah.
my perfect world. Like you couldn't make something better. I mean, you've heard me say that tons of times.
Yep. You think if what will be a great outcome of this podcast is if we can get church leaders to, I think, a not be afraid of
Yeah.
technology, right? And maybe even get to the next stage, embrace. So we might have to deal with some fear issues, and then we
Yep.
want you to embrace the tech, right? That is going to be kind of one of our goals here, I think,
Yeah.
for our
Well,
audience.
and maybe I think, yeah, absolutely. Like educate church leaders on technology, talk about maybe some current and future things that are
Yep.
coming, things that you're maybe hearing in the news, or when you're that pastor that's reading reading up on what's going on in the world, you're hearing about metaverse and crypto and a
Yep.
bunch of stuff, right? Like we'll kind of
Yep.
get into those topics, but maybe we can talk about a little bit just like what is church tech,
Yeah.
like why is that even a topic
Right.
that makes sense to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. Look, obviously, when you look at applications that are, you know, built and put on computers, those applications essentially take complex things and make them easier, and they provide you a platform to do things at scale that you couldn't do, with pieces of paper, right? So,
Hmm.
all church technology is, in my mind, is utilizing computer chips and speed and silicon to make tasks easier. So ultimately, and especially if they're administrative, right? Because a lot of admin goes into the life of church volunteers and church leadership. So if we
Right.
can make that easier and scale that to be so much faster by using the tech, so they can actually do ministry, like be with people, prepare sermons, teach kids Sunday school, like that's what church leaders should be doing.
Right.
In my mind, what we do is we build technology to take care of the mundane things that, but we can also make it fun and solve other problems. But
Yeah.
in my head, that's what it is.
Well, absolutely. And I just think like we all know there's technology in the world, right? Like there's technology
It's
going back
everywhere.
to, I don't even know when the first bit of technology was developed,
Yeah.
the wheel. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like technology just keeps evolving and has evolved year by year. And you think about
Right.
a church and you go, okay, like a church is a very unique thing, right? So I'm
Mhm.
not building software for the business, like
Right.
some business that sells something on the internet or has a
Yep.
manufacturing plant or what, like there's all kinds of businesses in the world. Like a church is a very unique thing and
Right.
like does specific types of things that other entities like businesses and nonprofits may not do the same, right? So
Right.
I think about like church technology is really like thinking about technology from the lens of the local church. Like, how do you
Yep.
build the tools that those pastors and volunteers and other church leaders, from the accounting folks to the, pastoral care folks to the worship team, like all the
Yep.
volunteers that come across all those different parts of the church to the executive staff, like they all do things that technology can make better,
Right.
not the care of people per se, right? Like that's the people thing. The church is not
Right.
that, but there's technology that can make things more efficient, things faster, things easier to do.
Hmm.
Computers are great at, these basic things. So, you
Right.
know,
100%. And then, the last 10 years pushing all of what was on a desktop or then into a laptop is now in your pocket on the
Yeah.
phone. And so
Right.
I think our big passion is how do we take that technology that used to live on a desktop, or a personal computer, and how do we make that mobile friendly in a way that takes it to the next level,
Right.
makes it easier, faster, simpler, beautiful, like all the things that we like to do when we build products,
Yeah.
and just lead with mobile, right?
Right.
That's, if you think about iterations of technology in a secular sense, it's the same in the church, right? Or it should be. We should be keeping pace. Maybe we should even lead. Where you think of all this back office stuff that used to happen on mainframes, and then it got smaller and smaller, and now it's all in your hand.
Yeah.
So that's we're passionate about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think like one of the most basic things a church is or keeps track of is like membership, right? Like who are the
Right.
people in the
Who's in my
church?
church?
Who's the flock? Who are the people that I need to take care of?
Right.
Whether you're a 10-person super small like house church or you're a big mega church, like that's what church leaders and pastors are doing, is taking care of these people and helping them get closer to God, right?
Yeah.
And so that member,
Yeah.
list that maybe way back in the day you had on a piece of paper
Dude, I
sitting on
still
your desk.
remember, like, I started my church in Atlanta in '96, and I remember getting my compact, or was it Packard Bell? It was one of those, and I had
I
my,
remember the compacts, yeah, with a
right,
Q.
and the 14, was it the 14.9 modem, whatever that was, and AOL, and I had Excel, and I remember filling out the first members and putting them in an Excel spreadsheet.
But you jumped. It used to be on paper, right?
Yeah,
Is like
totally,
where
yeah.
I'm
I went.
like
I
it used to
started
be.
with Excel,
Yeah, it used to be written down, and then it went to Excel, and
cards
maybe
in boxes.
sticky notes.
Yep.
That was the tech of the day, and then Excel
Yep.
spreadsheets
Yep.
became a big
Right.
thing. There's
And
still churches
now,
using Excel spreadsheets.
oh, there's a lot of churches using Excel spreadsheets, let me tell you, sadly. But now you think about what we can do.
Yeah,
Like, we can put your whole church in your hand. You can, like, find, what small groups you've got in your app. Like, the jump in the last, just call it 5 years,
yeah,
of what we can serve back to church leadership now is, I mean, it was almost unthinkable, 5, 8 years ago.
yeah, yeah. I mean, tons of things we can kind of discuss, and it feels like even in the topic of church technology, like having a website and having a digital on the internet cloud-based like member contact system, like a basic like member management for your church and your volunteers and your small groups, and even having the ability for someone to give to the church online. Like a lot of that stuff is like it's almost shocking to think that somebody wouldn't have some of those things like today, as we're sitting post or later half of COVID and a bunch of stuff went online, and right. But so there's all that, right? Call that like the almost the like, it's like table stakes. Like those are just all things that churches should have.
Right.
But then there's new stuff that's
Yep.
happening that churches are being forced to think about.
Yeah.
And they get to kind of jump into it, feet first, or hide from it. Everyone's going to kind of do what they do.
Yeah.
But things like metaverse and crypto and other
Right.
stuff that'll come. Like those are new church tech. Like there's new things happening as the world progresses and technology progresses that are pretty interesting. And
Yeah. And
like, how do you do church in the metaverse? I know we're going
right.
to do a show on it, but like, right? Like church in
Yeah.
tech, that's a thing.
I think we'll end up talking about that stuff a lot, and I think because you and I, we're thinking about that stuff inside of our business. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to work out what technology could be available and applied for our customers. So we're just going to let the audience in on the stuff that you and I kind of sometimes just riff on, and it goes back to that first point. We want our listeners to not be afraid of technology, to embrace technology. And if you got to go slow, go slow. Like I was talking to one of our sales guys yesterday, and I said, hey Brandon, like how many people are switching from other platforms as opposed to brand new churches signing up for He's like, I'm shocked at how many people are signing up that don't have anything. And like, so still today in 2022,
Yeah.
there are churches that are just coming online to do some of the things that other churches have been doing for 15 years. Well, we want those guys to listen to this podcast
Right.
too. Like, not just the techie church guys that are like, oh yeah, we're into this and nerd out on it. We want these church leaders that are like, okay, we know we've got to progress into using some of this tech and letting it work for us. I'm excited about that
Yeah.
group of people because they're still out there. There's plenty of them.
Totally. So what kind of topics are we going to cover? We
I
talked
think
kind
we're
of
gonna.
metaverse crypto, like we'll hit some of those super future
Oh,
things, but what other
totally,
things are we
totally.
gonna?
Look, I think the stuff that we know works, and so I think we're going to be able to educate our listeners around best practices around, hey, do I need a church app? Maybe, maybe not. We'll describe what it does, and
Right.
we'll talk about,
Everybody
potentially
else
where
has an
it's
app. So
right, where it's going. And obviously, you need to know, like, that you need a website, but we'll talk about what the website should do, what it shouldn't do, what the website can do, what it can't do.
right,
So,
right.
so I think we're going to cover a range of technology that we both build and sell, but beyond that, know that as a kind of fundamental basic, this is what a church needs to be using. But then I think we'll be able to give them the best practices around how I should be using this. So to elevate productivity for this back office stuff, and so I can get on with the business
Yeah.
of
And
ministry.
and I think we spend a lot of time thinking about like member engagement. So,
Big time.
we'll definitely cover church online and hybrid church and the role of tech in engaging kind of your community and
Yep.
people that need what you have, right, as a
Yep.
church and kind of all the things just online church and hybrid church and
Right.
church apps and all the tech involved
Yep.
in kind of doing that well because
Yep.
churches are trying to figure that stuff out too.
Yep.
And like you said, as well as just the fundamentals, like the
Right.
websites and the church management platforms and volunteer management and
Right.
back office like accounting and banking and like we're gonna kind of
Yep.
hit all the things and hopefully we hear from you guys like that are listening and you
Right.
guys have good questions that we can explore on the podcast as
Yeah,
well.
totally. And that goes to how we run our business, right? We're listening to our customers so much. Like, we've got thousands of customers in private Facebook groups, just for the sole reason of hearing, what's going on from
Yep.
their perspective. So we're going to love audience, kind of participation in that sense. I think we're going to have some pretty cool guests we'll find people who are experts, maybe know more than us about certain things. We'll get them on the show.
Yep.
Like, we'll debate. We might agree with them. We might disagree with them. Like, it's going to be fun. But I think there's going to be a high value takeaway for people who listen to this podcast. I'm pretty excited about it.
Amazing.
It's going to be awesome, man.
Well, man, that
So
was
how
a
do
good
people
time.
find out about where to listen?
Well, we got all the places. So if you're a podcaster, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those kind of good places. I'm sure
I'm
there's a
still an
bunch of
Apple guy, but I
yeah.
did just get a Spotify account.
Yeah,
I
I'm an Apple
paid.
guy myself
Yeah.
for sure. But I also go YouTube. So we've got our Tithely
Yep.
YouTube channel.
Yep.
So you can look up the Church Tech Podcast, or you can just go to the Tithely YouTube channel. You'll see it in there.
Yeah. And which has thousands of subscribers. And if you go and watch this on YouTube, which we love, just become a subscriber, and you'll get notified of all kinds of stuff that we put
Yeah,
up there.
yeah. And if you're kind of a Tithely fan, there'll be other content too. We interview church leaders. There's a kind of the Modern Church Leader podcast that shows up there. We do our big product launch events, and we publish those on our YouTube channel. So there's tons of great content there. And then I think we also have the domain, thechurchtechpodcast.com.
Yeah, churchtechpodcast.com. But
So
we'll put it up on the outro, and you'll be able to see it, and it's going to be fantastic, mate.
it's going to be a good time. Always fun to talk about this stuff. If you caught the trailer and you're interested, wherever you got this, give it a like or give it a comment or subscribe or whatever it is you do, whatever platform that you're using, do that. Help us spread the word and, get it out there.
Hey, man, we'll see you next time.
All right, man. See you guys.